Well, I've finally done it, and I now own every single piece of S grade inside Capybara Go. And if you've been following the channel so far, you know we've been piecing in weapon guides here and there, and today we're going to give you an ultimate weapon guide strictly just on the S grade stuff. Now, if you have been following, the first 7 S grade weapons will be stuff that you already know about, so skip towards the end to watch the last 3. And if you haven't seen any of these before, the other guides that I have also have the non-S grade stuff. So if you want to know about those, go back, take a look, and learn about them. Now, the first thing you need to know about weapons inside the game is the weapon itself will have something that says equipment skill and then whatever level it is. And really, that's just going to be how many of those skills you have unlocked underneath. So as you can see here, this is a non-S grade weapon, and we don't even have the rare ability on it. So there, it's only a level 1. We get that rare ability, and now it's a level 2. And finally, we take it to Epic, and now it becomes a +3. Now, the S grade ones, if you notice, they're actually a level 4, and that's because all S grade gear is going to have an uncommon or green stat on it. And next to that, you'll see the word rage with the description of what's going to happen during that rage skill. So the first weapon we're going to show you is the Whisperer. This is a bow, and as you can see here, when we activate our rage, we'll be launching out 3 daggers. The other skill that's listed in there is if we have a crit hit from our main weapon, we'll be throwing another 2 daggers. And the rare stat will have every basic attack will give an extra 10 rage. Now, as far as the epic one, this is probably my favorite one out of all of the actual S grade equipment, and that's going to be our global attack is going to have an increase of 25%. So when our weapon does do that crit there, you can see here the 2 daggers are going to get thrown out, and the damage of those daggers are going to be roughly around 45% of what your attack is that you can see on the screen. I say roughly because the math in these games are very complicated of how the numbers will add up, but just figure somewhere around 45% is what you'll see for each one of those daggers. When it comes time to using our rage, which by the way, every time I at least use the rage in this video here, I end up critting. So I got my first 2 free daggers from the green stat, and then you can see here the additional 3. I myself am a huge fan of using daggers inside the game, so this is the weapon I'm currently using. And I think I forgot to mention on it too that the actual rage skill will be doing 180% the amount of damage. Now when it comes to the next S grade weapon, this is going to be Blade of Justice, and there are some skills that are similar to the actual crossbow we just used, but they are a little different. The first thing you'll notice is that the actual rage skill will now do 230% attack damage, and we also are going to have 2 rounds of judgment. Now I looked all over the place on this judgment and I couldn't really see anything that described exactly what it was, but I think I found out what it is just by some of my testing. You can see here that combo damage is going to be plus 45%, so if we get that second hit will be stronger than the first. And then we have the basic attack is going to add 10 rage, and once again, the global attack plus 25%. So when I finally go and use my rage skill, you'll see that Sword of Justice icon underneath, and now this character has the judgment on him. So this is what I found out from the testing in this video right here, is when I finally landed that combo on it, I had that 45% extra damage done. And where the initial hit was hitting for 254, the second hit was hitting for 377, which was roughly, once again, about 1.45. So our base attack plus that 45% for that combo. However though, when I hit the enemy when they had that judgment sword on them, my initial hit was 208 because my attack was lower, and the second hit was 382. And that was roughly a 185% increase. We have our 100 from the base, we have our 45 from the actual combo bonus of our green stat, and then figure this thing was giving an additional 40% to combo attacks. I'm not certain if there's any other stats that this judgment does, but that's pretty much what I'm seeing. It looks like it's revolved around combo, which makes sense because that's what our green stat is, and usually all these stats will line up to some point. And one thing I do want to say in this video is if you look at your basic stats and look underneath the attack, this one here, the Durian Hammer, is a counter attack weapon. Just figure whatever that line is underneath the attack is pretty much going to be what that weapon revolves around. Now this will give us a 12.5% increase to our counter attack, which means we have a 1 in 8 chance technically of countering. The uncommon skill on this is if we counter, we're going to be getting 10% added to our shield. Similar to the weapons yesterday, our rare skill is going to be that basic attacks will give an extra 10 rage. However, on this weapon, our epic stat is going to be a global HP plus 25%, where those other ones were global attack. Now when it comes time to activating our rage, we'll be summoning a Durian, which is going to be doing 150% of our attack damage, and we'll also be healing ourselves for 11% of our max HP. Now our normal hits are hitting for 223,000, and when we go and activate our rage, that Durian is going to be the hit. And you can see it only takes 3 hits to actually activate our rage, and now we're hitting for 358,000. Now it did say that damage dealt was going to be about 150%, that's actually closer to 160%, but I don't know, say, what type of collectibles I have out there that are going and giving me extra damage to things, so just figure it's roughly going to be around that point. But you can see at the same time of that thing hitting, we're also healing for 117,000. We're just sitting roughly over 1 million for health, so there's our 10% right there. Figure every 3 hits that you're making, we're activating the range, and these are the numbers you're going to be seeing. When it came to the counterattack, I was hitting a little bit hard. Normally I was hitting for 223, now I'm hitting for 234. Once again, that could be a collectible or some other stat inside the game that's kind of buried inside there. But you see here, we are getting a shield. We didn't have this shield before, even though the wording says that it's going to add on to your shield. If you don't have one, you will get a shield for 10%. Moving on to the next weapon, which is going to be the Star Staff. Once again, if we look underneath our attack, this is going to give increased damage for our skills. And if you know me, I absolutely love building around skills inside the game. So our uncommon skill on this one will be, we're going to be releasing 1 flame strike each round. But look at this right here, the basic attacks on this one for our rare stat are going to give 25 rage this time. The other 3 weapons we've done so far have only been 10, so this is going to be a big one right here to build around rage. However though, the epic stat on this isn't going to be any global attack or HP, we're going to have burn damage plus 35%. So when it comes time to activating our range, we're going to be doing a fire strike damage at 230% our attack. On top of that, we're also going to be adding 2 stacks of burn. Now the uncommon flame strike, that'll be hitting for about 90k on this here, which is roughly around 35%. So remember when I said that we're going to be getting an extra 25 rage for every basic attack? It's only going to take 2 basic attacks before our rage meter is filled. So that rage attack is going to be 723k I'm hitting for. It's actually more like 280%. Once again, these are rough numbers. Don't go by the little stats you see on there. There's so many variables inside the game. And then we're also getting those burn stacks on it too. And that burn's going to be hitting for about 141,000, so a little bit less than 50% of what our basic attack is. However though, as I got further into it, now those burns started hitting for like 212,000. So think about this here. Our basic attack is hitting for 258,000. Our flame strike is hitting for 90,000. Then we go and throw the burn in there at 212,000, and then the ultimate rage skill comes in at 723,000. Those seem to be some pretty insane numbers, and I think I might have to switch over this weapon as my main. Now let's talk about the Angel Bow here, because that's what we all really want to know, is what these S grade items are like. The basic stat is going to give us some weapon crit rate, and then our uncommon stat is going to throw 1 dagger each round. I don't know why they labeled the rare stat as rage recovery from basic stack plus 10. It's going to be the same thing as all the other ones there. Just you use a basic attack, you get 10 rage. And this one will also be a global attack plus 25%. So the rage skill got a little cut off, but we're going to be doing 200% our damage and then throwing out an Angel Dagger. Now the Angel Dagger will then go and have Holy Light with it, and then we get cut off. So my basic attack is hitting for 314.9k. And when it comes time to that dagger hitting every round, that's where I'm hitting for about 146k. That's roughly 47% of our basic attack. But when it comes time to using this rage, this thing actually hits pretty nice. So the rage will launch out an arrow, which is going to be hitting for about 673k, pretty much at 200% plus whatever attributes I have inside there. But then we'll be launching out that Angel Dagger. Now the second this Angel Dagger hits, we also have that Holy Light activate too. I'm not sure which one's which for damage, but one of them's hitting for 314,000, which is our base, and then the other one's hitting for about 196,000. So if you were to total all those numbers up together inside the rage attack, it's gonna be doing about 4 times the damage of our basic one. And the fact we got that weapon crit rate in there too, I think I actually kind of like this one. Now the first thing you'll notice about the Mushroom Hammer is this is going to be a counter weapon. You can see the basic abilities up there. We have a counter rate of 12.5%. And our great stat, which we now call it, used to be uncommon, they renamed them inside the game, is that damage is going to be reduced by 25% after a counter. The rare stat's pretty straightforward. Basic attacks give us 10 towards our rage, and then we're going to get a global HP for 25% for the actual epic stat. And then that rage skill there is going to be summoning a mushroom that's going to be doing 150% to enemies. And that's going to also give us a shield of 14% for 3 rounds. Now, ironically enough, by the time you go through those 3 rounds, your rage is filled right back up again, and you can go ahead and pop another. Now, as far as the damage after doing a counter, it was a little bit weird on this one here. I originally would take hits at 1.97, and the second that I did that counter while taking the hit, it was knocked down to 1.86. Now, as it went on, it went down to 1.05, and then it finally balanced out around 989,000. So key factor is you're going to counter on this. After you counter, they're going to be doing less damage to you. Now, as far as that rage skill, their 150% attack, it makes it seem like we're going to be hitting more than one enemy at once, but actually it's just going to be hitting whatever enemy you're attacking. So I don't think you're going to be getting like splash damage on this or AoE. It's just going to be whichever enemy you're attacking if you have 2 of them out there. Now, my basic attacks were hitting for like 3.97 million, but this rage is actually hitting for 8.18 million, which is a lot more than that 150%. I don't think I have any other stats that are really affecting that, but it's tough to tell inside the game. So just know you're gonna be doing somewhere around that 150. And as you can see here, the second we go and hit this thing, we're now getting that shield for 14% for 3 turns. Moving on to the Bishop Staff, this one is going to be a skill-based weapon. However though, you won't be seeing any global HP or global attack inside the stats. Instead, you'll see that uncommon great stat is going to start us off with 50 rage. And then that rare stat is going to be giving us an additional 25 on every single basic hit. On top of that 12.5 skill damage that we have in our basic abilities, our epic stat is going to be giving us an additional 35%. Now, it's a little bit tough to actually see these numbers inside the game when you're already going in with the weapon, but figure the last one we did there, when these bolts of lightning were hitting, we had about a 45% compared to our base damage. And with this 4.28 million here, you can see we're hitting more about 62% of that base damage. Now, as far as the rage on this one, we're going to be doing 230% damage to the enemy, and if they're below 30% health, we're going to be doing an additional 50%. Now, at full health, I was hitting them for 22.66 million, and I have no idea where this 11 million hit is coming from, but when they finally dropped below that 400 million that they had for health, that 30%, I was now hitting them for 27.58 million. So there is an increase in there. Just know, you got to kind of wait for them to get towards the end of it there in order to see it, but there is some additional damage. So when it comes to the Skysplitter, this is going to be a combo rate weapon, meaning we're going to be having better chances of going and comboing our basic attack. The great stat on this will be adding a sword chi every time we combo, and then the rare stat is going to be an additional 10 rage every time we have a basic attack. And always one of my favorite, the epic stat there is going to be a global attack plus 25%. When we pop off that rage, we'll be doing a Skysplitter wave, which will be doing 230% damage. So when I hit with my basic attack, I was doing 11.93 million, and when I came to doing a combo, I was hitting for 12.51 million because of my attributes that are added to that stat. At the same time, we go and launch out that sword chi, and that's hitting for 6.85 million, which is about 75% of our base attack. Now, I believe that the sword chi typically hits for 70%, but given those attributes, we're hitting for a little bit harder. So in the other run where I didn't die right away and I was actually able to use my rage, my base attack was 7.09 million. And when I finally popped off the rage, I was now hitting for 18.44 million, which is right around that 230%. However though, I gotta say, I was a little disappointed on this. I thought there was gonna be an attack and then a sword chi as an ultimate attack, but it just looks like we're gonna have the animation and then hitting for that 230. Moving on to the Shadowlands, this one is going to be a counter rate weapon. I'm kind of surprised on this one because usually when you have that skill up top, we usually see counter rate somewhere down below on it, and that's not the case on this. Actually, the great stat on this one is going to be that attacks have a chance to poison an enemy. Similar to the last one, basic attack will restore 10 rage, and global attack will be 25%. And this one, when we pop the rage, we'll be doing 230% damage and also giving them a stack of poison. So this one, my basic attack was hitting for 10.07 million, and unfortunately I didn't go and get a poison stack from just doing my basic attacks. However though, when I popped the rage and did that 20.69 million damage, I actually got a stack of poison from the rage and then got a stack from the actual great stat itself. And that one hit for 3.19 million, which is right around the 20% damage per stack. So figure that's close to about 40% for us doing some poison. And when it comes to poison, I feel like the community is divided. Half of them love it, the other half hate it. So really, if you love the poison, this might be the weapon for you. When it comes to the Reaper Staff, this one is going to be a skill-based weapon. If you know me, I love my skills, so this is one I actually really enjoy. The great stat on this is going to be giving a bolt every single round, and then the rare stat is going to be an additional 25 rage for every basic attack. So in other words, you're going to be going and popping off your rage every 2 rounds versus the 3. And the rare stat on this will not be a global one. Instead, we're going to be getting bolt damage plus 35%. Now the rage skill on this will be casting 3 death bolts at 60% our attack damage, and this will go and increase 12% every time and up to a cap of 6 times. And this wasn't really what I was expecting, but we'll talk about it in a second. So when I hit with my basic attack, I was hitting for 8.76 million, and when it came time to casting that bolt, it was actually 3.1 million. And bolts inside the game typically hit for about 30%. Remember, we're doing extra bolt damage on this, we have the skill damage that's going to be increased, and then any other attributes that I have from just going and building around skill. Now when it came to the rage, this is where I was kind of surprised because I thought I would have to go and get 6 rages in order to cap this thing off. But the first bolt hit for 6.07 million, which is spot on with that 60% attack. But then the second bolt hit for 6.8 million and the third bolt hit for 7.53 million, all in one rage attack. Now I got lucky on this one and I was able to pop off a second rage before I died, and the fourth one did 8.26 million, the fifth one did 8.99 million, and finally I critted on the last one and did 35 million. So for me, I really like this one because, like I said, I build around skills, either that or I tend to build around daggers inside the game. So between using the Star Staff right now and the Whisper, if I get more of these things, I might be tossing this on and actually going into battle. But those are all 10 S-grade weapons for you, so I hope you found this helpful. I'll try to put timestamps for each weapon in here, so if you kind of go through and get a new one, want to know what it's about, you can just jump right to that section. But like I said, if you want to know about the non-S-grade ones, go and check out the playlist, hunt down the videos. I have the actual image of the weapons I go over inside those weapon guides, so they should be pretty easy to find. Now, if you made it to day 14 and are done with that 7-day carnival and want to know what you should be doing next, take a look at this video right here. Thanks for watching, and remember, I pick my butt.